Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God. Today on 5 Minutes in the Word, we're going to be in John chapter 5, and we're going to take a look at one of the miracles of Jesus. John chapter 5, starting there in verse 1, and it says, "After this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches." And so here Jesus is, and he's going to see this pool. He's going to be there, and around this pool, it says in verse 3, it says, "In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water." So he's going to see all these people with various infirmities, with various problems and diseases laying around this pool, and they're all waiting for something. They're waiting for the moving of the water. But why are they waiting for the moving of the water? Well, verse 4 says, "For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was made well of whatever disease he had." Now that is an amazing account, and that would have been incredible to have seen and to witnessed. This is what they're waiting for. They're waiting for an opportunity where they could be made well of whatever problem was facing them at that time. Now, there was one individual here that's laying here, and obviously he's had an infirmity for a very long time. It says, "Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity 38 years. 38 years. And I don't know if he was by this pool every single time, but he has been laying here for a very long time. In fact, in verse 6, it says, "When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been in that condition a long time, he said to him, 'Do you want to be made well?'" Do you want to be made well? Of course he wants to be made well. He's laying by this pool. He wants to be, but Jesus is going to try to get this man to say something and to understand something here. And really, it's going to be a lesson not only for this man, but for all of us and for all the people of that time. "Do you want to be made well?" And the sick man answered. He's going to answer him. He says, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me." So here he is, and he's been trying his best and all his power he can do to be made well, but he has no one to help him. He has no one to help him get that final step. He's been laying there, and he's just needed some help. He needed the help so he could be first. Well, then Jesus is going to speak to him. And Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." This was something different. This man wasn't expecting this. This man didn't understand what really was fully happening here when Jesus is talking to him initially, that here, this man has been waiting for the stirring of this water so he could be healed in that way. But yet here's Jesus, he's speaking to him, and he's just telling him to rise, to take up your bed, and to walk. Jesus is able to do this because he's God in the flesh. He's able to do this because he is God's son and God's spokesman that is here on earth, and by the power of God is being demonstrated within these verses. And in fact, when Jesus performed miracles, he demonstrated who he was. And the same thing when his apostles did miracles, they demonstrated who they were. And so here you see that this miracle is being done, and it represents who he was and who he was working for. He was working for God. And so he tells him to rise, take up your bed, and walk. And then immediately the man was made well, took up his bed, and walked. And that day was the Sabbath. And then this man must have been rejoicing because he didn't have to wait in the line. He didn't have to rush to get there. He didn't have to do anything except for do what the Lord commanded him to do, which was to rise and take up his bed and to walk. This man wanted to be made well, and he listened there to the commands of Jesus. Now notice this. This is a great part of the story. You see the faith of this man, or you see really the healing power of Jesus, or what he's doing for this man. And so then you're going to see other people, and they're not going to like what's happened. It says immediately, and the man was made well, took up his bed, and walked. And that day was the Sabbath. And the Jews therefore said to him, who was cured, "It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed." 38 years. 38 years with an infirmity, and you've had an opportunity now to stand and to walk. You've been told to rise, take up your bed, and walk. And guess what? Now people are saying, no, you can't be doing that. You can't carry your bed. It's the Sabbath day. And so he answered them, "He who made me well said to me, 'Take up your bed and walk.'" So he just said, "Hey, I was doing what I was told to do, and I was made well." And they asked, "Who is this man who said to you, 'Take up your bed and walk'?" But the one who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, a multitude being in that place. And so he didn't exactly know who this was. He just knew, hey, he had been told by a man that had the power to do so, by the way, to take up his bed and walk. So that's what he did. And so here he is. He's not knowing exactly who Jesus was, but afterwards it said Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, see, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon you. So here Jesus, and he's going to focus on something that's really important. That's this man's spiritual condition. You know, what this man's spiritual condition was before, we don't exactly know. But we know here that Jesus is telling him, hey, don't be living a life of sin. Don't be making sin your pattern. Don't be involved in these things. You've been made well. Sin no more. Jesus focusing on something that's very important here for this man. So the man's going to depart and tell the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Now this is going to infuriate the Jews. For this reason, the Jews pursued Jesus and sought to kill him because he had done these things on the Sabbath. They thought Jesus he's working. He told a man to rise. He spoke. And therefore he was working, and so he told the man to rise. Now, Jesus is going to confirm the fact that he was working, but Jesus answered them, my Father has been working until now, and I have been working, because he is the Son of God. And he has been, in fact, before the beginning of time, even through this very day, he's been working. Now Jesus has risen back to heaven. He's sitting down at the right hand of the throne, but he's still reigning as Lord and King. It says, therefore the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. You're going to have a moment to where Jesus heals a man that's been trying to, help himself, but didn't have enough help, didn't have the strength to do so. So Jesus helps this man. He tells him to rise and walk. Only God could do that. Only the power of God could do that. And so you're going to see that Jesus is confirmed as being God in the flesh, or God's Son, or God's messenger. That's what he's confirmed to be, but the people still didn't want to hear it. I bet you that man wanted to hear it. Here he was, and he's been made well, and Jesus told him, sin no more. I think the lesson I want us to pull out of this today is, who are we going to be listening to? All the naysayers around that are saying, that you got to do this, got to do that, or do we just turn to the Word of God and see what the Word of God tells us to do? Jesus, he knew no sin. He did not sin. He did not even sin in this way. He made a man well and made him healthy once again. Only by the power of God could that be done. Here we're going to see that salvation, as we look into the Word of God, it's only done by us being obedient to the will of God. Jesus is the one that saves. And so we remember that each and every day, not only for our lives, but for the lives of those around us. We can take the saving message of Jesus Christ into the world, that others may come to the knowledge of him as well. And so listen to the words of Jesus each and every day, so we all can be made well.